Hello, everybody. Welcome to Age of Quarantine. How's everybody doing? Uh, just hanging out here in the basement of my other bar self. I'm going to try my headphones and see if they work. Oh, you know what? Fuck them. Does everybody hear me? Can you hear me? Everybody hear me? Hear me? Hear me? Yes. Bueller. Oh, there's Dennis. Tonight, my guest is a very old friend of mine, and somebody whom I always look forward to seeing anytime I'm in Chicago. His name is Denis Buckley, and he is called 88 Fingers Louie. He's also been in other bands, such as Story So Far, which I think we'll talk about because it's probably a good story. Dennis?
Yeah, fuck them. Fuck your headphones.
Can you hear me, buddy?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good. This is my first Instagram Live on this contraption. Actually, my first Instagram Live anything. I just got rid of my my brick phone, so I'm new to everything.
Yeah, you're a little router in your house.
What's that?
Are you near your router in your house?
Yes. No. I can see it. I can wave to it.
Okay. You're but maybe I need to go upstairs and turn the music down in my bar. So I like your shirt, by the way. Very nice.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. I figured you would.
Yes, I mean I wore this one for you, so there we go.
Oh, thanks, man.
The shirt's is old, probably is older than our friendship.
That shirt's 45 years old? Holy shit.
It's not. It's like something like. Anyway, everybody, welcome to quarantine. Welcome, Denis Buckley. How you doing, buddy? Like, what's been going on? How you handling COVID?
I'm day to day like everybody else.
Yeah.
I moved at the start of COVID. That was fun, and I moved to a part of Chicago I thought would be a lot busier, but then COVID has extended, and there's jack shit to do. So
Well,
I'm living in a padded cell, and I'm surprisingly okay with it.
what so I don't think we've ever talked. We might have talked about it, but I'm surely we were both drunk. What do you do for a living? What is it that you make money doing?
I'm a hand model for Palmolive.
That's a good one.
No, I was an escort, and then I put on too many pounds, so they fat shamed me, and they booted me from their offices. So for the past few years, I have been working for a IT equipment reseller, drafting proposals and editing sales stuff. It's been pretty cool. I work with a bunch of cool people, but I haven't seen them in a year. And we just got word actually yesterday that our offices won't be opening up till probably summer of next year at the earliest.
Oh wow, that sounds like Vitus.
Yeah.
I mean it's that's about right though. Honestly, it's I don't see things getting any better in the next 4 to 6 months, maybe 4 months. But,
no.
It's are you able to work at you're able to work at home basically?
Yeah. I have a work laptop. I get all my work done, and I can pretty much be at this anywhere that's got Wi-Fi. So, which is good. If I need to make a break for it, I can just grab my laptop and go fuck off someplace else and do some work.
So, you're sort of a really special person in my musical existence. because when we met, we bonded so many bands that a lot of other people never really gave a shit about, and so many really like we're both. First of all, we're both the same age, so it kind of in a weird way that we both got into certain bands in the '90s that might have. A couple of them are celebrating anniversaries, and one of them would be your favorite record of all time, apparently, which would be the Goo Goo Dolls' "Hold Me Up." And,
oh yes.
I want you to talk to me a little bit about like where you heard that record the first time, and for anybody who doesn't know this record, the Goo Goo Dolls were once a really, really great punk band, and were for about 3 or 4 records, up to our Car Wash, I would say.
I'd go a little further. I'd go Boy Named Goo.
Okay, Boy Named Goo. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Their bass player used to do most of the singing. But they were a band that I got introduced to in college, and I heard Jed first. Then I went back to the first record, the Mercenary Records. And then I found Hold Me Up. And Hold Me Up just blew my mind. And it just was everything that I wanted in 1990, 1991. Here, you know, to me, it sounded like a melodic 7 seconds record meets the Replacements meets, you know, I wasn't even savvy enough to know the Replacements at that time.
Right.
And they were fucking really, really great. So I want to hear your rendition. Before we get into 88, I want to talk about our love of weird, obscure music.
Okay, all right. I got into Goo Goo Dolls actually when Hold Me Up had already come out. I was there's a radio station here in Chicago called WXRT, and one night a week they've changed the days over the years, but one night a week they would devote an hour into what they call, like, you know, obscure music, and it was just stuff that they weren't regularly playing on their, you know, during the day. It wasn't part of their regular programming, and they were playing everything from, you know, Goo Goo Dolls to like Lush and the Cocteau Twins. It was like so and so has a new record out. You're not going to hear it during the day, so check it out here at 10 o'clock at night. And I heard There You Are on this program, and I know I'm positive you've experienced this, where you hear a song and you're just like you could have been reading a book or a comic book or, you know, jerking off or whatever, and you just stop what you're doing because that song sounds so fucking good. That's exactly what happened to me during There You Are. I can't say for certain that I wasn't jacking it off, but I could say that whatever I was doing, I stopped and I listened to the rest, you know, 3/4 of the song, and I was like, this is, and same thing for you. Like, in my head, I couldn't describe what it sounded like, but like all these years later, it was like, this is like the perfect combination of the Replacements and Cheap Trick, like put together. Like, it was perfect. And so I waited, you know, they played like another 3 songs, and they announced like the 4 songs that they played. And I'm like, I wrote down Goo Goo Dolls. I'm like, oh, that's a fucking dumb name. But, you know, off their album Hold Me Up. So I'm like, all right. And then that weekend I went out and I got I was dating a girl. And so this is what, our junior year of high school, I guess this was. Girl I was dating at the time, I said, if we go to the shopping mall, we've got to go to the record store around the corner because there's this new album I need to get. And so we went and I got it. I got it on cassette because I didn't have a CD player back then. And I remember looking to make sure I have the right record. It was like all sorts of polka dots on the cover. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, the song's really good. It's going to be worth it. So I opened up the cassette, you know, the wrapping paper. I think we're back in the mall at this point, and I open up the inside, and I start looking at the inside of it, and I see that picture of the 3 of them. And they all have like feathered long hair, except for George, the drummer. Like, he was the only one that looked remotely punk rock at all. The other guys had, like, you know, the fucking swoops or whatever. And I just kept looking, and the girl I was dating was laughing her ass off. She's like, "You're gonna hate this fucking record. You're gonna hate this. This is some like fucking Hessian obsession shit. You're in trouble." And I'm like, yeah, well, whatever. It was $6.99, but I took it home and I played that day. I'm sure I played it that night. I'm sure I played it 3 times in a row, like start to finish, and every fucking song on there was amazing. And it's when people say you never judge an album by its cover, that's like that and Warehouse Songs and Stories are the 2 records I always reference, where you're like, you can't judge what a band sounds like by by how shitty the artwork is.
Oh yeah, for sure, especially indie bands. Yeah,
Yeah.
There was some great artwork, in the late '90s emo scene, in early Hot Water and whatnot. All this sort of far away thing, your emo records. It's like, oh, it's that far away telephone pole.
Right. Oh, the train tracks I used to skip stones on, when I was 5.
Like, it's hysterical.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's another band that you and I shared love of, which a lot of people in America don't know this band. They're called the Doughboys, and they were another band that was very, very punk. Canadian, but so a Canadian version of punk, which can be super punk because allows you to, live up fucking Toronto. But like the record Crush was a record that you and I both sort of shared a love of, and that record for me, that sounds like the Foo Fighters before the Foo Fighters, which is weird to say, but like a punk band. But I always got the impression that Dave Grohl or somebody in that camp heard that record and, wanted to send. What's your connection to the Doughboys, and how did that happen?
The Doughboys, specifically Crush, that was the first record I heard by them. I'd already joined 88, and 88's first drummer, Dominic, was a huge Doughboys fan, and I want to say he brought. I can't remember if he brought that album to practice, or if we heard it in the car on the way to a show. But I heard it and was like, "Oh, this is perfect." This guy, like John Kastner's melodies. I'm terrible at naming everybody else in the band, but John Kastner's melodies, especially on that record, was like, okay, you're hitting every hook that's that's possible to hit.
Oh, and lyrically, like, to me, they hit every fucking possible thing for me lyrically, the way that Ned's Atomic Dustbin did. It was like,
yes,
it just had,
yes,
it was fucking perfect, man.
Yeah. Well, funny you mentioned you brought up Foo Fighters. You remember reading, like, I guess it's been almost 10 years ago now. Foo Fighters did a Canadian tour, and the Doughboys got back together to open up for them for like 2 shows, I want to say, maybe even 3. And they did like an after party at like some bar in Toronto. I think Dom and a bunch of his friends went up to go see it. And it was the Crush lineup. I don't think they played anything other than that. But clearly the Foo Fighters paid them back because they had them open up a couple shows.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I definitely think that there was definitely an influence there, because there was definitely proximity, them being from Vancouver, and like if you tour up and down, I'm sure it's we're fully aware of that band, and they're one of the, like, if anybody who's listening or cares or will watch this in the future, because we tend to get a lot of future stuff. The record's Happy, so many records that they put out that are so you're wearing a Ride t-shirt, and
yes,
Ride's another band that I believe we bonded on pretty hard. And Ride, so I used to wear this Going Blank Again t-shirt all the time when I was touring around America.
Yeah.
Very funny situation with the singer from Ink and Dagger, who's now dead.
Mm.
He offered me $100 to buy it off my back. It was like an original.
No shit.
Yeah. Outside of a show in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. Like, why would I fucking sell it? And I was like, fucking gross. I'm wearing the thing on fucking tour. So Ride's a band that I always wished I could be in a band that sounded remotely like that. And I've had arguments with people about shoegaze, where people say that Ride's not a shoegaze band, that they're too shoegaze. And I'm just like, you're on crack. Because great part about Ride is that they're a shoegaze band that rocks, right?
Yes. Yeah. I kind of put them in the same, not sound wise, but I'll put Swerve Driver in the shoegaze camp. But they're a shoegaze band that's got a whole bunch of fucking low end to them.
Very dinosaur.
Yeah, exactly. Like if Kevin Shields listened to more Jay Mascis and less Thurston Moore, for lack of a better comparison. My only gripe with Ride over the years was, and I get it, like, and you've seen this with the shoegaze bands that we've listened to over the years. They have like their hit shoegaze album, or the album with the singles on it, and then they see that NME and Melody Maker and whatever, all of a sudden the trend of shoegaze was starting to fall off. So like, okay, we better do something that sounds somewhat contemporary, and then they decided to sound like the Byrds, which always kind of threw me off.
I hate Tarantula, but I've listened to that now, and it's not as bad as I remembered it. But
oh right, yeah, me too.
But like they definitely had some great records later on, and I get the '60s part of it, because that's totally fucking Andy Bell. But like Lush went sort of Britpoppy, where
yes.
Like, and if you ever I read this great interview with Mickey, the singer, talking about how when they made Split, like, she was sitting in a basement in France writing, like the darkest shit of her entire life. Like, that record is so dark. It's about her abuse and like her father abusing her and all the shit. And like, meanwhile, like, Oasis and all these other guys are doing blow and get fucking going crazy in London. Yeah. They put out this record, and like, so I kind of feel that, like it's for them, like they were trying to keep up, and like, I'm sure these were all their contemporaries, and they were even there before all of them, and they just like flew by them. So I get it in a way. I think Ride is one of those bands that one of the few bands that's put out two great records in their reunion time.
Oh, I love them. I love them both. Yeah.
Which is
I might even like this. I might even like this one better.
Dude, fuck, the two Swerve Driver records are fucking phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, just fucking great.
You know who doesn't like the Swerve Driver records?
What's that?
I'm gonna call him out. You know who doesn't like the past two Swerve Driver records? Jeff Dean.
Fuck Jeff Dean.
Fuck you, Jeff Dean.
Jeff Dean to stop playing bands, okay? Harrison, it's like,
yeah.
Man, like, fuck you, dude. I can barely get 2 songs done. Fuck it. But yeah, so all right. I guess the last band we can talk about is Superdrag, which also bonded on. I know that I think I posted the Lisa Memory record, and you were like, "Holy shit, this is perfect." I was like, "Yeah, I know it's perfect." Like, I mean,
yeah, dude. Yes.
You got to go to John Davis's fucking Bandcamp page. Holy shit.
Oh, I know, dude. Full of just that guy's got nothing but time to do music, man. I envy him. Like, he's
fucking hooked. The fucking wazoo. It's
like, yeah. Oh. So, did you ever see Superdrag live in their heyday?
I saw them many times, and in fact, I befriended them because I was very good friends with a guy named Greg Glover who owned Arena Rock Records, and so we used to hang out all the time. I actually drank Jack Daniels with John Davis before he went straight. He's like, "Man, you ever in Knoxville again?" Because I had just played in Knoxville with like Saves the Day or some shit, and he was like, in a weird arcade in Knoxville, He's like, man, I live right up the block. Just come on down. We'll drink some cold beer. I'm like, but you know, as it turned out, he was kind of a tragic wreck, and I did not.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I feel like he's one of those guys that when he found Jesus, I was okay with it because I think otherwise. But you know, okay, you know, Superdrag is a band. So In the Valley of Dying Stars is on its 20th anniversary. It was their third studio record, and I mean, you know, I know people love Head Trip. I loved Head Trip for years because it's like this weird psych record. But
sure.
In the Valley of Dying Stars is their peak. It's just
100% agree.
It's brazen. It's recorded by Nick Raskulenitz, like who's their friend of theirs. Just like everything about that fucking. There's not a bad song. It's like, you know, and I saw somebody actually post something. I thought about our interview coming up. Somebody posted, like, if you look at the history of power pop, none of those bands ever really made it.
No.
Right? Like, none of those.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. Like, if you think about it, Cheap Trick, okay. Cheap Trick had a few big hits, but they never hit the stratosphere, you know? There's the replacements. I mean, Elvis Costello is huge. He's power pop in his own way. You know, like, but, I mean, Superdrag is a band that was like taking all the influences and throwing them all in a fucking blender. Like, John Davis to me is the most underrated songwriter of the 20th and early 20th century. For hands down. I
agree.
Hands down.
Yeah, I agree.
And you know, I just feel like I hope he gets his due. This last Lee's record was just like, fuck yeah, man.
Oh, so good.
The double record.
So good.
So funny because if you listen to it and you really have a vast knowledge of music, you can literally go, okay, this is their Traffic song. Okay, this.
Yep.
It pays homage to everything. It's fucking great.
My only takeaway, my only criticism, and it's not even so much as a criticism, it's, you know, I know he likes to keep it DIY, and I can totally appreciate that. But what I loved about Superdrag was that shit was power pop in stereo, and then he got on that mono Jones, and it kind of threw. The only bands I could really listen to in mono are like the Beatles and maybe early Rolling Stones. Well, after that, it's like, oh.
Yeah, but I have a very specific opinion about that. Like, you want to listen to the format in which it was mixed for. So Beatles records were mixed for mono. The stereo mixes were fucking. They were done 15 minutes mono mix. And that's why it spread out so long. Don't really give a shit, which turned out really well for them because everything sounded so good in general. But yeah, anything recorded in the '60s that was mixed for mono, you know, and even like I have a thing with buying vinyl where I like to buy records on vinyl that were mixed for vinyl, that were mastered.
Yes.
Not records that were mastered for CD and then turned into a fucking vinyl record. You know, nowadays you do 2 different mastering versions, and but records weren't done like that. Say in the early '90s, when they get reissued on vinyl, they're just a shitty digital mastering version for vinyl, and that's not the way you're supposed to listen to it. And you know, I'll say this for the Beatles: anybody who has a chance to listen to the Beatles mono versions, it's night and day. It's night.
Oh yeah.
I grew up with the stereo version. Once you hear those mono versions, it's fucking like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
It's like it get better. It gets better.
Yeah.
And Pink Floyd, all of that shit, all the early stuff that, like, you know, even the Byrds, anything you can pick up on a mono vinyl record that's original, that's the way to fucking listen to it. Music should be listened to the way it was recorded, mastered, and meant to be put out as a product.
Yeah.
Period. So I like the whole mastering for iTunes and Spotify thing. I think that's pretty cool. But, you know, like my ears are shot, so I don't even give a fuck anymore. But listen to 60s music. I want to listen to the mono versions, period.
Yeah.
Do up, forget it. I want to hear the fucking mono version. End of story. That shit was all done on 2-track live. That's the way you should do it. Anyway,
Yeah.
all right. So I would love to talk about Oasis, but I'm gonna skip that part because maybe
Suffice it to say, we both like Oasis.
I want to talk about 88 Fingers Louie, which was your band, still is your band, back together now. And what's interesting about 88 Fingers is you guys have had kind of a storied history, and I knew about this before I read your wiki, but so you got together in '93, you put out a bunch of 7-inches on Fat Records, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was a big deal in the mid-'90s, for sure.
Sure.
Why'd you guys get in fights so much? I mean, there's a lot of tabloid bullshit on that. I mean, what's up?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll be the first one to admit that probably 95% of the fights were probably down to me. I will say we got together in '93. I don't know if anybody had an inkling of how popular or whatever successful we were going to get. 88 was the first band I ever joined. I knew I could carry a tune, but I never had any desire to join a band because, you know, I grew up in a family of firefighters. Like that was going to be my trajectory. And then so getting into like later '92, I had taken a lot of drugs and was looking to kind of calm down and maybe what's the word? Not necessarily go straight edge, but like maybe find a different clique of friends, because the guys I was hanging out with, like, they were fun, but like the party just never stopped, and I kind of had a, you know, my constitution, I guess, was at its limit. So getting into like mid to later '92, a college buddy of mine was kind of going through the same thing. He introduced me to the guys in the band, the Bull Weevils, who are from Chicago as well. And I realized the partying those guys wanted to do was, you know, go out to an all-night diner after a show and just drink coffee and soda pop till 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And I'm like, all right, well, this is a different kind of hang, but this is probably a little safer for me at this point. And so I met the 88 guys through them. But like I said, I was kind of looking forward to becoming a firefighter. And then I actually registered to take the Chicago Fire Department test. But then one of 88's second or third, maybe bigger tour, I completely blew it. I was out of town when the test happened. So then when I realized, okay, well, I, you know, missed my fucking chance there, you might as well see how far we could take the band. And then my now ex-wife became pregnant. And so I went from like, oh, I'm the guy that doesn't want to tour too much because I'm going to be a fireman, to I'm the guy that doesn't want to tour too much because I'm going to be a dad. And my son was born in the fall of '95. By the summer of '96, it was literally like I had a nervous breakdown on the road, and basically my ex kind of gave me, and understandably so, gave me an ultimatum like, hey, this kid's very young. You've got to decide, do you want to be a dad right now or do you want to be a musician? And I chose the dad route, but I did not do that in a constructive way. Basically, it took a huge fight in fucking, I don't know, Arizona or some shit. We were supposed to do like a 8-week tour, I think, with Good Riddance, and I think we got about 10 days into it, and I just fucking lost it completely. So that was '96. We had a fight and a breakup in '96, and then at the start of '98, I split up with my son's mom. Ran into Joe, and I made a joke like, "Hey, I'm single now. Let's get the band back together." And he started laughing, and he's like, dude, we're having problems with the band that we're in right now. He's like, are you serious about doing the band? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm serious if you're serious. So we had a couple of little talks about it, and then we were back in the studio by June. Shut up. Siri's yelling at me for some reason. Shut up, bitch. So from February of '98, by like that spring, we were in the studio recording a new record, and everything was going good then. And then probably summer of '99, kind of the same thing happened. Like, you know, I realized I was missing a lot of you know, my son's development, you know, his first words and his, preschool stuff and just general, my biggest thing, you know, I came from a very strong family, but I never wanted to be I never wanted to be called a deadbeat dad. You can call me a broke dad, you can call me an ugly dad, but I never want you to call me a deadbeat dad. So by summer '99, and again, not very communicative, the band started demoing a new, what would have been our third record. And I just wasn't interested at all. Like they would play me demos in the van, and I'm like, I've heard that Bad Religion song before. Oh yeah.
Is that some of the stuff that became Rise Against, or?
Yes, and that's the ultimate kicker. 2 songs for sure, possibly 3 songs from that ended up on the first Rise Against record.
Yeah, so I want to give a little history on this. So your original drummer became the drummer of Trio, correct?
Second drummer.
Second drummer. Okay, and
yeah.
And then right, so first drummer was Dom, right?
Yes.
And then second drummer became the drummer of Alkaline Trio, and then your guitar player and bass player became members of Rise Against, or they started Rise Against.
Yeah. And
it's super interesting. So Rise Against is a band that I hate by principle. But I was, when I was signed to Geffen, DreamWorks got absorbed into Geffen, Interscope,
mm-hmm.
and the Instruction record had just gotten finished, and so like we had like we suddenly added Sparta and Rise Against and all these other bands, and I personally sat in a meeting where the woman who was brought over from DreamWorks, who signed Rise Against, sat there and told me, yeah, listen, we're going to put our money behind Rise Against because your band's going to cost too much money to push. And I'm like, what? Oh, you mean they're going to sell it first week because they've Warped Tour for the past 10 years? And an indie did all the work for you, fuck dicks? And, lo and behold, and I remember they played a song that they were going to release as a single, and it was like this weird song that had like a break in the middle that like got fast, and I was like, what the fuck is it? And like, but well, them being, this is in early 2000s, so it's way past 88 Fingers time. But but I was just like, what the fuck, like, and so I always held a grudge against Rise Against. Said, hey boys, if you happen to watch this sometime in the future, you're more than welcome to play St. Vitus.
I still talk to Joe every once in a while. They did Rise actually did I can't think of the name of the organization. Is it NIVA, the Save the Stages? Yeah. They did a like a half-hour set a couple weeks ago from the Metro, and it was probably my first time seeing them live in probably a good 10 years, and it was interesting. They played they played a mixed bag of stuff, but Joe was the best man at my wedding. Granted, my marriage was barely 3 years, but he was still the best man. So I'll always think the world of him. But I get where there's a lot of I get the love for Rise Against, and I also see why people don't like them as much.
They're definitely not a polarizing band. You know, it's just like they're one of those bands you either really like or you just don't care about. You know, it's
right,
which is fair enough. And you know, they're truly they're a good band, and you know, like they're an underground band, they're a real deal. So you know, I know that, and you know, it's like they you know, like unlike another Chicago band, Fall Out Boy, who turned into completely different, but gave a lot of my friends jobs, so that's okay.
Sure,
but they're good. Because the Fall Out Boy they're good dudes. So with 88 and all that shit, like, you want to talk a little bit about the Chicago scene back then, the Fireside
sure
stuff? Like, I mean, that's where I met you, and you know, like, and moving into your next band. Oh, well, the story so far. What happened with the story so far? That's got to be. There's a story there that I don't know about, and I always kind of sort of like, because I know there's another band called Story So Far.
Yeah. So
tell me the story about
it. So the story so far, depending on who you talk to, I could say I kind of knew I was going to quit 88 in 99. And basically the few days leading up to what was going to be the last 88 tour for me, I ran into Jeff Dean at the Fireside, and I hadn't seen him since 88 played a show in Vegas. So we were shooting the shit, and surprisingly enough, we were drinking whiskey. And he gave me a tape, and he's like, "Hey man, so I just started this band with some buddies of mine from Detroit. We're all working in Chicago now. We're looking for a singer if you know anybody." And I kind of joked and I go, "Well, between you and I, you know, 10 beers in at this point, between you and I and the 30 people in the bar, I'm quitting 88 after this tour. I'm kind of tired of touring." And he's like, "Well, give this tape a listen, and if you like it, you know, let's talk when you get back." So I got the tape. I listened to it in literally, this is less than a week after I left for tour. I listened to the tape, and you know, I immediately fell in love with it. But at the same time, I was like, "Oh, this is a lot different than the stuff I've been doing. This is some like straight up rock stuff." Like I wasn't sure. I was excited about it, but kind of scared of it at the same time, because I was like, okay, you know, I've just been doing screamy punk stuff for, you know, at that point, you know, 5 years. I don't know if I know how to do anything else.
But I mean, but in all honesty, like, you weren't really, were you listening to the type of music that you were playing at that time?
No, I mean, you know, with the exception of like the classics, you know, I'll never stop listening to like Minor Threat and Dag Nasty and that kind of stuff. But you know,
when we met, I never really like it. I never really connected 88 and you with your music taste. And you probably could say the same thing about me, although Aerotype was at the time incredibly rock. It's interesting to me that you say that, you know, like that you wouldn't have the confidence to, because like I would think that you would embrace it, and you know, obviously you did. You went for it. Yeah.
Then eventually I did, and it was cool because I would bring the tape. No, I didn't bring the tape on tour with me. I left it with my girlfriend, but I wanted to work on it as soon as I came home from the tour. And as even though I was supposed to be on tour for 5 or 6 weeks, I came home just a few days later. I rang up Jeff and I go, "Well, the band quit quicker than I anticipated. So let me know when you guys want to get together." And you know, within a few days, I was jamming with those dudes. And I remember we were in the car driving to some destination, and we were going back and forth with ideas. And at the time, and I'm sure I still have it somewhere, I have a list of like my ultimate band names. but they were literally named after song titles. So like, you know, I had Invasion Hit Parade as a name, even though it was a straight ripoff of Elvis Costello. You know, I had Celebrated Summer as a band. So anyway, we're going back and forth with band name ideas, and to be honest with you, I don't remember if I had it written down or not. But as an afterthought, someone said, "What about the story point?" We're like, "Oh, here's our story. We just haven't done anything yet, but this is our story so far," or whatever. And we all kind of looked at each other. We're like, "Well, let's earmark that. If we come up with something better, we would. If not, this is a good name to go by." And it just kind of stuck. And I think it was right around the time that we put out the EP on Hopeless, or maybe right before that. Our bass player had the notion of trademarking the name, and which everybody thought was an afterthought. Like, okay, cool, man. Good job doing that. And then it wasn't even a fucking thought until this other story so far started creeping up, and I kind of laughed about it just because like. Our band, The Story So Far, barely lasted 3 years. It was, that ended from my part in the band, ended in kind of a whimper. And I just didn't put much thought into it. And then we started seeing like, this band is getting big. They're playing Riot Fest, and we're having people, old friends of ours, saying, "Dude, is the band getting back together for Riot Fest?" Like, no, that's another band called The Story So Far. My kid was like, "Hey, Dad, I know you don't talk to mom's side of the family too much, but they want to know if your band is going to play, up in Minnesota, if they're playing Riot Fest or whatever." I'm like, "Okay, that's not The Story So Far. That's a different band." And then we made an attempt, kind of a soft attempt, to reach out to their management to say, "Hey, we do own the name. Can we maybe talk about changing the band name?" And first spot of communication just got unresponsive completely. Somebody followed up with them, and they basically came back and said, "Well, it's your word against ours," and kind of just laughed it off. No. And then that opened up a discussion with guys in our story so far that really hadn't talked to each other in a number of years. And we had one or two guys like, "We're gonna fucking sue the shit out of them." I go, "We have one fucking EP to our name."
Yeah, but
nobody.
Right, man. You can fuck that.
I know.
Copyright for themselves? Like, that's the dumbest thing you could possibly do. You're getting that big, you got to watch out for that.
Yeah. So long story short, there was a bit of a social media kerfuffle. Basically, I challenged their singer to an arm wrestling match, and I said the winner of this arm wrestling match gets to keep the name. We're not gonna, bring any lawyers into it. It's gonna be an old fashioned fucking arm wrestling match. And of course, I saw what that dude looked like, and he was, he's not fucking Greg from Dillinger Escape Plan built, but he's still fairly built, and I'm all fucking flab at this point. So needless to say, we didn't hear from them. They did not accept my challenge, and then we just kind of let it. We just kind of let it die. If we were feeling really litigious, I'm sure we probably have something there, but the amount of money we'd have to spend just to get it in the right hands at this point.
Yeah, you a little bit of money. I mean, it's funny nowadays how there's so many bands that have the same name. Like, you go on Spotify,
yeah,
and kids these days name their band, they don't even give a shit. I'm surprised there's not 16 Nirvanas. It's just
yeah,
nobody. Do you remember the band Serpico, Sleeper?
Oh yeah, John Lisa's band.
John Lisa, yeah, he copyrighted the name Sleeper, and time when I toured Europe with them, and they fucking, and that English band Sleeper became huge in England. they got signed to, I think, RCA over here, and they met 50,000 their records in advance, and they were like,
yeah,
there's another band called, and they wound up getting like a band, which is fucking.
Oh yeah, I remember John told me the story. They basically wanted to give them like the equivalent of like a free meal at, you know, free dinner at fucking Denny's or something like that. And he's like, no, fuck you. And I don't pretend to know what the final dollar amount was, but it was healthy.
It was very,
they settled.
It made me able to go on tour for many years afterwards, which spent all the money on. So I mean, good for them. But
yeah.
With 88, like, you guys got back together a couple times, and then like I'm guessing that you and Dan just like stayed really good friends throughout the whole.
I laugh because him and I are the biggest button pushers. Like I never got in fights with Joe. I got in one fight with Glenn. I don't remember really ever getting any fights with Dan or with Dom. But Dan and I just from day one, we just knew how to fucking kick each other in the balls all the time. And it was probably me more than him, but he knew where to fucking put the screws into me. So a lot of people were like, well, clearly you two couldn't get along. That's why the band hasn't stayed together. I'm like, well, that's kind of.
You're the only two members that stayed in the whole time.
Exactly. That's the irony. So I won't pretend to say that over the years we stayed really good friends. What happened? I mean, we didn't hate each other. We just didn't really like hang out. But what happened was, so 88 stopped for good in 99. And then in 2009, well, rewind, end of 2007, Dan was in a band. They just kicked out their singer, and he wanted to know if I would come and sing for him. And we're a band called 0 to 60, and it was not unlike 88, maybe 88 with a hint of, I don't know, thrice or something. There's a lot of technical guitar work going on, and I was with them for a couple of years, and then and then again, like the circle of life, as they say. I went to court and I got custody of my son. So I went from, not being able to do a band because my son was real little to, I don't really want to do a band now because I need to focus everything into, he was in junior high at the time, and I wanted to take that seriously. So I stepped away from that band. About a year later, in 2009, Dan came to me with a proposition, and he basically said, hey, it's been 10 years since we played our last show. Do you want to do like a one-off show? He's like, and should we ask Joe? I go, if Joe is on board, I'm on board. So I don't remember who ended up talking to Joe. I think it was me. And Joe said, I would love to do it, but I'm just way too busy with Rise Against. But the one thing he said to me in that conversation was, go ahead and do it because I know people will be stoked. He goes, just don't get a shitty bass player. And I'm like, of course, we can't get a shitty bass player because not a lot of people can play the fucking the bass the way that you can. So we got a friend of ours, John, to play what was supposed to be one show. And it was a show at the Bottom Lounge in Chicago, sold out show. Almost immediately after we announced we were playing this one-off show, the people behind Riot Fest reached out and said, would you want to play Riot Fest this year as well? And it was weird because I'm trying to get the months right. I think it was was it August of 2000? No, I'm fucking up. Anyway, the time between our Bottom Lounge show and our Riot Fest show, there wasn't that big of a gap. And, I think we were worried if we announced that we were playing Riot Fest, it would hurt the draw of this Bottom Lounge show. So the agreement that we had was we weren't going to say shit about Riot Fest until after we played the Bottom Lounge show. So we played both those shows, and then somewhere in between then, the people behind Grooze Rock in Belgium got a hold of us and said, we'd love you guys to play Belgium. And that was when we were kind of scratching our heads like, okay, none of us have the time to go do a European tour around this cruise rock thing. So I basically told Dan, who's kind of facilitating everything, I said, we just got to make sure it makes sense that we're not losing money. If they're going to fly us there, put us up, and have us play, like, I don't want to lose any money over it. And I remember hearing the guarantee, and I'm not going to kiss and tell, but I remember hearing the guarantee and just being like, there's no way this number is real. There's no way this number is real. And it was, and we were in Belgium for less than 48 hours. We literally flew, played Cruise Rock, and came home. And then when we came home, so this is all in 2009. We were only supposed to play one fucking show. We came home from Belgium, and I started thinking like, okay, maybe we should do a quick tour. He's like, and I kept stressing, that's got to be it, guys. That's got to be it. For once in this goddamn band's life, I want to end things friendly. I don't want any drama behind it. We were supposed to do so we started talking about doing like a 10-day European thing, and the person we were working with, we started hearing kind of some bad shit about this booking agent. So he was about halfway through booking a European tour when we said, stop, we're not going to go. And we had a good friend of ours up in Canada, kind of at a last minute thing, ended up booking like 5 or 6 shows for us up in Canada around the time we were going to do Europe. And then we were in Montreal near the end of 2010, maybe middle of 2010, when I said, okay, I meant when I said, let's stop while we're still friends. So we did one more show in Chicago, and that was going to be it. So this end of 2010, I was putting that fucking nail in the coffin, and we were going to walk away, not best friends, but we were walking away friendlier than we did before. And so I thought that was it. And then 2013 rolls around, and out of all the people to remind me of this, Joe and I were talking, and he goes, dude, 2013 is 20 years since 88 started. I go, yeah. Well, thanks a lot. Now you're putting that fucking idea in my head. And he goes, what idea? I go, well, we should fucking do a show. And this is a fucking show you have to do. Like, no fucking excuses. And he goes, can you wait around till I figure out what my Rise Against schedule is going to be like? I go, yeah, totally, dude. I'm like, I get it. You know where your bread is buttered. So that conversation started happening in like maybe the first 3 or 4 months of 2013. We didn't end up playing until December of 2013 because every time Joe thought he was in the clear, he was reminded that some other fucking, tour was coming up. So we constantly had to delay it based on Joe's schedule. So the end of 2013, we played a 20-year anniversary show. All 3 drummers that played with us. So Dom came out, Glenn came out, John, who played on the 99 era of the band and is still our drummer to this day. He played too, and we had a really good time doing that. And that's kind of when I turned to Joe and I said, I know what your answer is going to be, but I think I want to keep doing this band. And I said, and I think I want to do it to the point where I kind of want to see if maybe we have some gas in the tank as far as music goes. And he goes, yeah, I can't expect you guys.
Of a new album come up, because that was like, you guys, that kind of not out of nowhere, but I mean, only because I'm social media friends with you that I would see like what was going on. But yeah, like you guys just like, well, first of all, kudos to you for the way that you do things. It's very much the new paradigm for a lot of bands that like have regular jobs that can do shit. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to use Thursday as an example because not that those guys all have jobs, most of them do. Like that weekend thing, like
right.
We're going to go and we're going to sell out a couple shows on the weekend, and like we're going to travel wherever people want to see us. You know,
Yes.
doing it for a while. Those guys definitely. Well, most of them have other jobs. I know Jason does, but like,
Yeah.
it's like the bass player in Punk, but fucking, you know, it's interesting, like that paradigm where it's like, hey, we're gonna fly here, we're gonna fly there, we're gonna, you know, we're just gonna do 3 days, 4 days, maybe we'll stay an extra day because I got a day off of work, and
Right.
it seems like you guys, you're having the best fucking time doing it. You know, like I can only judge from, again, from your social media posts and talking to you every once in a while, and when you came and played New York, but like it just seems like you're having a great time doing it, and I love it. It's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, you know, it is. It's been fun. If you would have told me in 2013, you know, after doing the 20-year show, that like, hey, I wouldn't have to get in a van. Not that there's anything wrong with getting in a van and fucking and going old school or going the, you know, the regular route. But if you would have told me in 2013 that the demand to see us was so much that, you know, we could when we were factoring in finances, we could fly and rent a van somewhere as opposed to starting in Chicago and playing shows all the way to LA and back and whatever. So that blew my mind, and it still kind of does, to be honest with you. But yeah, at this point, like, you know, I know Dan is the only one Dan's the only one that doesn't have like a quote unquote normal job. He's you know, he owns his own recording studio, and he records and mixes and masters regularly. But you know, he could definitely, like, he's got the luxury, so to speak, of kind of figuring out his own schedule. Or the rest of us, you know, I'm an office lackey. Our bass player Nat works for Whole Foods, and our drummer John is a teacher. You know, we've had to maneuver and make weekends work around that. But the irony is, we were from about 2015 to actually, I'll tell you what, it was from like 2015 to late last year. We kind of had an idea of what we were going to do each year. Like, we knew, here's how many days we're going to take off to do this. Here's the pocket of the U.S. that we want to concentrate on this year. Here's when we want to go back to Europe. And all that was kind of going at a steady pace. And then kind of around this time last year, I started thinking a couple things. I'm kind of tired of doing it. I was kind of like, I kind of want to maybe work on something else musically. I was thinking about maybe going back to school. My workload at work was getting bad, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I need to set a good example at work, and maybe looking to another position there, and I knew that was going to affect my availability. So I kind of sat the guys down and said, I don't want to stop doing the band, but I'd really like to take most of 2020 off. And it was met with kind of mixed results. Yep. And here's the kicker. I said, because what was the deal? Oh, we knew that we wanted to go. I know what it was. We knew we wanted to go to Texas because we hadn't done Texas at all since like '99. So we knew we wanted to do at least some shows in Texas before we took this break. So, you know, we got our schedules together. We were like, okay, January, we're going to go to Texas. I'm sorry, March, we're going to go to Texas. January, we're going to do some California stuff. And we were kind of leading up to it. And they're like, there's no way you commit to you'd agree to do anything after this stuff in March. And I go, I kind of meant what I said. I want to take the rest of the year off. Like, you know, we could work on music. I go, but just let's not worry about playing shows. And then, you know, I was kind of starting to change my mind about that. And then we did these shows in Texas. The last show before COVID, we played just outside of Dallas, and it was the worst show I've ever played. It was the worst. I was very drunk, and I was like not even a good drunk. I wasn't like, you know, Paul Westerberg drunk. I was fucking, I don't know. I was a drunk that was kicking shot glasses off stage and just doing dumb shit. And we brought my brother on tour with us thinking, okay, anybody's going to keep Dennis in check, it's going to be his brother. And my brother's like, whatever, man, live your fucking life. So our last show was a fucking disaster. And then we get home. So we played Dallas. The day before we're in Austin. And as we're leaving Austin, word came down that South by was canceled. I'm like, oh, that sucked for Texas, you know? Like, it hadn't really like kicked in, like, or clicked with anybody. Like, this is a fucking like worldwide thing happening. So we're home on Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm supposed to meet up with our bass player Nat, and we're going to go to see Avail play in Chicago. We're going to meet up and go to that, and then he called at the last minute saying he wasn't feeling good. He was gonna sit out. I'm like, all right, well, I won't rub in how good the show is. So I met up in pregame with some friends before the doors open for the Avail show. And 5 minutes before the Avail show doors open, everyone's phone started going off. They pulled the show. Like, wait, now we're canceling fucking shows an hour before doors? This is fucking crazy. And then, so that was on the Thursday. That Friday, we have an all hands on deck call at work saying, you're not allowed back in the office for the foreseeable future. And then that Monday, everything was fucking shut down. Like, it was fucking nuts. So it was one of those, like, careful what you wish for. Now I have...
You almost predicted it was
gonna
Yeah, you know? Like,
yeah.
Perfect time. Well, I mean...
Yeah.
We're at an hour. We never got to talk about Oasis, but I do want to do that privately.
Yes.
Being on, and I want to thank you for everything you've done. Like, you've been a sort of a constant musical friend of mine, and you know, like I look forward to seeing shit that you're into, and I'm like, oh, Dennis is into it. I got to check it out.
Yeah,
that's very much a weird sort of social media role that you play in my life. That it seems you definitely, you're spot on most of the time. And thank you for doing this for me. And I want to thank everybody in quarantine, everybody in the future who's going to watch it every night at 8 o'clock. And stvitusbar.com. Go buy some merch. Go buy some 88 Fingers Louie merch. Keep these guys in business so that they do shit.
Please, I need a new pair of shoes.
Love you, bud. Thanks for fucking...
Hi, bud. Love you too.
Cheers, brother.
Talk to you soon. Later.